Well, I've got Charlie with me today on the Miracle Healings podcast, and the reason I wanted him to share his story is a couple of reasons. One is he's young and already had a pretty darn good life, and then kind of slipped and slid, and then his bounce off of the bottom of that darkness and back into a pretty amazing life has been like amazing to watch. I hear a lot through the grapevine. I hear some from the providers. I hear some from other people, but I think this will be fun just to chat, Charlie, about kind of what started, what went from, hey, my life's pretty good, everything's going pretty well, to, oh no, I need something, and then things that you tried maybe, and then what caused you to kind of bounce off of that hard dark bottom and start climbing back up. And I mean, now I think you could probably come out and lecture at the program, heavens. So, um, yeah, I'll just kind of let you talk. Yeah, just maybe tell everybody, you don't have to tell anything personal, um, whatever you want to share, but just tell everybody maybe how your life kind of went from doing pretty well and some things that contributed into you sliding into the dark. Maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I grew up in a good Christian household. I small town living, just very peaceful life. Didn't really have any issues that came up. And my freshman year of high school, I moved up to Alaska and left my hometown that I lived in forever and went to Alaska with my family and just really started missing home and kind of missing that slower life. And as I just continued to live up there, I developed a lot of depression, anxiety, and that was a big thing a new thing that popped up in life. I'd never even heard of depression, anxiety prior to that. And I start getting these depressive episodes and just stressed and anxious over little things. And I noticed my relationship with my family starting to deteriorate, um, and just how I did in schooling and in sports. I just wasn't there. Barely slipped through high school. And with this depression, anxiety, tried my first therapist freshman year. Didn't really see any improvements with it. I kind of went in there thinking, oh, a therapist is going to fix everything.
Yeah.
Once a week with the therapist, and we're good.
Right. Little magic
Um,
wand, little pixie dust.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been there.
and I just it wasn't cutting it, and so towards the end of my freshman year of high school, I got into drinking pretty heavily. I'd go out to these parties with my buddies all the time, just drinking just about every weekend, and then start drinking, in between periods at school and things like that. Just and that just continued to spiral down and getting caught with it from my parents. Continued to deteriorate that relationship there. And then around sophomore year, I started to use marijuana. And I thought, oh, this fixes it. This is everything I was looking for. Um, and I mean, at the time, it did help. But I wasn't thinking long term. I was thinking short term. I wasn't thinking, what are the consequences of continuing to use and just, push down that depression, anxiety.
Right.
And yeah, and so
I'll jump in just for one split
yeah.
second. The tricky thing about alcohol and marijuana and any substance that makes you feel differently, it works short term. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
so hard I mean, and for me over the years, I've really changed my view a lot. I mean, why would I ever judge someone who's trying to feel better, no matter what they're doing?
Yeah.
So alcohol, who cares? Marijuana, it doesn't matter. The problem is that you're dark enough, like you said, you're depressed and anxious enough that you have a need to be altered, right? I
Yep.
mean, I mean, to me, who cares about the method that you used? Is it sleep? Is it a substance? Is it whatever? But
Yeah.
it's that core issue, that inside issue of that disturbance that you keep trying to medicate, whatever the substance. So, I mean, that's why a lot of high school kids drink. That's why a lot of high school kids experiment is they're like, what do I do with this emotion and these thoughts and this wildness in between my ears and in my heart? Like, what the heck? And then you drink and go, oh, that's awesome,
Yeah.
But like you said, it's awesome until it wears off, and then you got another problem. And then anyway,
Yeah.
I don't want to jump too much, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? That people that aren't feeling well are doing anything they can to feel well. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, I'll let you keep going, but that doesn't work long term. So yeah, so tell me how that kind of fleshed itself out, and then where you ended up.
Yeah. So just continued to smoke and to drink and things like that. And I started working, full-time job, started doing online schooling. And that it was a good thing because, I was making money. I felt like I was improving in life, but it was also a bad thing, kind of a double-edged sword there. Because once I started working, then I started to use that as a coping mechanism, just overtime as much as I could get, just keep
Yeah,
myself busy. And then I'd have those times where I'm supposed to be doing schoolwork. And that's when I just wasn't doing schoolwork. I was just smoking weed, doing everything but.
right, right.
And so it just, I mean, the work was good because it kind of kept me out of trouble for the most part. But then I started to implement my smoking with work. And that, I in my head as I was high at work, I thought, oh, this is great. I'm so productive.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And then, but the second I would, start coming down off that high, I was just, slow at work, not getting things done. And then, I'd have a sober day where I'd look back and I was like, I wasn't getting anything done while high. I like, what was I doing? And I was messing up at work a lot. And then that just started to, continue to compound and compound, the substance abuses, abusing work, using it as a substance, and all these things. And it just continued to compact and compact. And the second I graduated high school, I said, you know what? I tried two other therapists throughout high school, and I went and said I can't do this anymore. So I moved back down to my hometown in Wyoming, and I thought this will fix it. This is my solve for everything. This
Yeah.
is gonna make everything better. So I quit smoking weed. I was only drinking on the weekends, so I moved south. I only lived back in my hometown for 3 months because as I started working and living there, for the first week it was great. Seeing all my old friends, family friends, had an amazing job down there. And then I started to notice after that first week that the depression, anxiety were coming back full attack.
Yep.
Um, and I was like, what the crap? I thought this would fix it. And so I started finding out a way to get marijuana in Wyoming. And I started drinking again just about every night. And it just continued to get worse and worse. And I had a girlfriend at the time who's still living in Alaska. And this relationship, I thought she was the one. I thought this was everything I could ever ask for. So after 3 months, I said, all right, pack my bags, quit my job, move back up to Alaska. Second, I got back up there, I got an old job I had in high school, and I started to, I moved in and lived with that girlfriend, and things seemed to be going good for about that first week. Is no depression, no anxiety. I was excited. I'm living with this girl that I thought I'm marrying and all that. Had a good paying job. But then started to get that depression, anxiety back again. And instead of, all right, let's go, try to figure this out, step back, figure it out. I just, kept pushing forward. I was working snow removal. So I was working all throughout the night, sometimes even 20-hour shifts. And I was doing that and doing that, and it just continued to get worse. I'd get done with work, I'd come home, I'd sleep, I'd lay in bed until I got the call to go back to work. And then I continued my marijuana and my drinking, and this relationship was going well, though. I thought I can use this kind of as that little foundation for my mental health. This is something that I could never slip off of.
Yeah.
And it was good for a while, and then about 2 to 3 months into living with her, I found out that she was using amphetamines.
Mm.
And
Ups the game just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop, because that was something that never crossed my mind.
Right.
Was that the girl I thought I was supposed to marry would just start using amphetamines, and she had a horrible family life and past, and so I tried not to blame her, because I don't know what she's going through.
Sure.
I'm not in her head, so I'm not gonna, and I'm self-medicating too. I'm not gonna blame her for doing so.
Right.
And that was going all good, and then it wasn't going good, but I was just trying to understand her.
Yeah,
And
you can cruising along. Yeah.
yeah, and I even found a therapist for her. And this is where I started to kind of just completely forget about what my mental health was like. I started putting all my effort and motivation towards her, trying to get her mentally okay, trying to get her this healing and get her clean. And so, I was putting all this effort that I had into making sure that she could heal. And I didn't even think about my own mental health.
Yeah.
And she just continued to use, but she would tell me that she was sober. And I tried every single time she'd say, "I'm sober." I believe her, because this was that girl for me,
Right.
She couldn't lie to me,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
like you said, it was foundational. Like you put a
yeah,
lot of eggs in that little basket. Yeah.
yeah. I became very codependent on her, emotionally and physically almost, and it just, every time I would ask her, she'd be doing something funny, and I'd ask her, I'd say, are you using again? Every single time she told me no, I'm not using. And within a week, I would find some sort of contraband, or I'd find her high. And this is where it really took a deep dive, because I couldn't help her. So in my head, I was like, I can't help myself. I can't help her.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I started using amphetamines myself. And that's where it just kept on going downhill.
Yeah.
That's a hard drug that really, really is horrible for you, especially mentally and emotionally. Because it's almost like you just turn this switch and forget everything about your mental health and everything, until you come down and you're not high anymore, and then you're thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah. But what an alter, right? Like the alteration's so dramatic. It's not just alcohol, and it's not just pot. Now the alteration's almost totally complete. Like it really removes your personality. And
Yep.
so, and then when you come back, the shame and the guilt and the frustration, the depression is even worse, but the high's even better. So you start this wild like up and these wild downs that used to be pretty good ups and pretty good downs, but now methamphetamine, the harder chemicals, they
Yeah.
change the amplitude. That the high is much better. And so you get that big disconnect, but man, the lows are much lower. So then it gets dark in a hurry, So that dance is, I mean, that gets scary. Yeah. Like
Yeah, it is a scary thing. It's and you're doing wrong, and that you shouldn't be doing this, and the effects it's having on you, but as soon as, you get it placed in front of you, it's just, those thoughts are gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, your brain just, and your body just becomes so hardwired to thinking you need it, and feeling like you need it, that it throws everything for a loop. And it's a very scary place to be. And luckily, yeah, after seeing the damage he was doing to me, um, seeing the damage he was doing to my family, and seeing the damage he was doing to her, I was able to finally just say, I can't do this anymore. And
Yeah.
so I just sat myself down and I said, this is not the man you want to be in life. I wasn't there at work, I was trying to use that to stay away.
Oh no, you froze.
Oh,
There you go. There you go.
good now?
Yeah, you said
Okay.
you weren't that wasn't the man you wanted to be, and you weren't that way. You weren't productive at work, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so I just wasn't productive at work. I was going down this rabbit hole, and wasn't seeing my family, and they lived 45 minutes away. I could have made that effort, but I just didn't want to. I was just in this state where all I needed was me, this girl, and the drug usage.
yeah,
But finally, I just sat myself down. This is not the man I want to be. And so I've been 8 months clean now. Um, I just quit cold turkey. Yep. Yeah. I just said, I can't do that anymore. And so, quit the amphetamine use. But as soon as I did that, it was right back to the alcohol and the marijuana. Um, and that just came back in full swing because, I deprived myself of this chemical, hard chemical that I felt and thought I needed.
yeah,
And so I was just trying to find any way to, continue to push down my mental health.
right,
Don't think about it. Don't feel nothing.
right. Be tough,
Um,
through, yeah.
yeah,
Throw
yeah.
some dirt on it. That's what we used to say at the ranch, you know.
Yep, yep. Yeah. Just cover it up. Don't think about it. It's not there. And then it just continued to get worse. Anytime I was at work, I was drinking or high, um, smoking in between job sites, plowing them, just trying to stay high. Don't think about it. And my girlfriend at the time, continued to use, and it just got so much worse. I mean, the house I was living in with her, it was trashed because I was spending all my time at work. I'd come home, 20-hour day, wanting to go to bed, and she just hadn't gotten anything done around the house. She just wouldn't help in any way. And I just continued to tell myself, that's okay. She's going through what she's going through. You don't quite know what exactly all it is.
Right.
So it came to a point where I just kind of gave up on trying to help her. I just thought, maybe that's going to be the way she's going to live, is just continuing to use. And finally, my landlord had came to the house one day, and she was pretty high, and he could tell. He used to have issues with substance abuse himself, so he was pretty aware of the facts and kicked her out. So she went and moved in with her mother, who was also a big hard drug user.
Oh no.
Yeah. And that just tore me apart. I was alone at this house, still self-medicating with alcohol and marijuana. And all I could think about every single hour of every day was, how is she? What is she doing? Her mother was abusive. So I'm thinking, what is going on? And it just really, really tore me apart. And so, I mean, I'd go every day, I'd get done with work, and I'd drive that 45 minutes to go see her. And I'd just check in with her, maybe spend the night, and then I'd drive back, go back to work. And
Jeez.
I was doing this every single day, because I was just so codependent on her.
Right.
And it just, financially, I couldn't keep up with it, emotionally, mentally. I just couldn't do it. So finally one day, I drove to my parents' house, and this was the first time I'd seen them in probably a good 2 to 3 months. I would never make the time. I was driving to go see this girlfriend who lived with her mother, not even 10 minutes from my parents' house. And I just wouldn't stop. I just blow right on past. I don't know if it was, I just didn't want to see them the way I was at that point in life, or what that was all about. But went seeing them for the first time and who knows how long, and I asked them if they could watch my dog for me. So I dropped my dog off, and at this point I kind of knew what my next step in life was. I had all these suicidal ideations, and so I dropped my dog off. I gave my parents a hug, and I went and drove and saw my girlfriend, and the state she was in, just how physically deteriorated she was, and mentally from this usage. It just tore me apart, and that kind of compounded those suicidal ideations. And so I saw her, I left her, went and hung out with some old buddies from high school, and I had this old Taurus Judge 45 long pole, and we went out muskrat hunting. And we were smoking weed, hunting muskrats, having a good time. And I put probably a good 10 rounds through this gun, and I was like, all right, tonight's the night. So I got done with them, and I drove out to the middle of nowhere. I sent my whole family and my girlfriend a text message, explaining why I felt I needed to do this. And I pulled the trigger on myself, and all I heard was a click. The gun had misfired on me after I had just been using it, almost all day. And that was that turning point where I was like, holy crap. And growing up Christian, I was almost atheist at this point, but I had this little crucifix that I had over my mirror. I just, I never took it off. And before I had pulled that trigger, I tried taking the cross off my mirror, and it wouldn't come off. And, I just thought I was stressed out. Whatever. And I called my parents immediately after, and they came and met me where I was. And I drove following them to the hospital, and I hit one bump on the way to the hospital, and that cross fell. And I was like, I was sitting there for hours trying to get that thing off, and so that was the point I knew I have to get this figured out. So I went to the hospital and court ordered there for a week, and that was the most miserable time of my life.
Yeah, that's rough. The
Yeah,
mental health unit that's supposed to help you feel better, right? Oh,
yep, yeah. I mean, take my shoelaces, have to give them my toothbrush at the end of the night, and I understand why, but I was just so angry at myself and the world and what was going on at that point in life. It was just a miserable experience. But finally, I was supposed to leave on my last day at 10 o'clock at night. And the front office ladies, they call me up and they say, get your stuff, you're leaving. And this was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was wondering, what's going on here? And so they're like, your dad's coming to pick you up. I was like, okay, getting out early, woohoo. And my dad, he meets me down by the front desk. We hop in the truck, and there's two exits from this hospital, one to go back towards my parents' house, and one that goes back towards Anchorage, where the airport is. And I was thinking, what's going on here? Because my dad, as soon as we leave the airport, he takes that left towards Anchorage. So I was thinking I was going to go back to the house I was living in, get my stuff or whatever, and then go back. But halfway to Anchorage, my dad goes, I booked plane tickets. Both of us are flying south. We're going to go down to Salt Lake City. We're going to meet up with my oldest sister and my nephew that I had yet to see. And then we're going to drive out to South Dakota to the family ranch, and we're going to spend 2 months there, and we're just going to ranch.
Hmm.
Just, kind of get away from everything.
Right.
And at this point, I was like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I've already been gone from work for a week. They don't know why. I was like, all right, let's go. My dad had packed me a pair of jeans and a t-shirt because that's all that was in my car. And we go to the airport, we hop on the plane, we get down there, and it was amazing, the events that unfolded after we landed in Salt Lake. I got to see my sisters, and obviously they were very tearful from the message I had sent them. And so I spent about a week with them, and it was a beautiful experience. Just didn't have any big plans, just talking, being together. And then we drove out to South Dakota and met my family out on the ranch, and we just worked every day. It was calving season, so
Busy.
very busy. I mean, waking up every 2 hours throughout the night. My checks were midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. So just every single day for 2 months, just working, staying busy, enjoying time with my family. And I always had a rough relationship with my dad, just because of my drug usage and everything and how he looked at it. And those 2 months, it was just beautiful. We were working together. We were just together the whole time. I never left his side. And that really, built some of our relationship back. And it was just beautiful. And I look back, and one of the biggest things for me when I was out on that ranch was we had a couple cows that were having issues birthing. So we pulled the calf out, assist her. And once you get the calf out, sometimes they're a little clogged up, and so they have issues breathing. And so you have to push on their chest and shoulders and try to get those airways cleared. And that just stuck out to me because I was hell bent for the longest time on trying to end my own life, and that was the closest a man is ever going to get to bringing life into this world. And it was beautiful, just helping these calves able to stand up, and it really gave me a bigger perspective on what life is, and
What a
got done.
blessing, man. What a
Yeah.
blessing. Dad to scoop
Mhm.
you up and have that insight and get you out there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing, Charlie.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful experience, and I'm so thankful for it. And I probably every time I call my dad, probably once a week, I tell him, I'm like, thank you so much for bringing me south. Thank you so much for that. I just can't thank him enough because it was what I needed at that point in time. We got down there, and it was about Easter time. And so I came back to Utah and spent Easter with my sisters and my nephew and my dad. And that was a beautiful experience as well. Just being together as a family, enjoying the Easter season. And on Easter, my dad, he comes to me and he goes, listen, you're an adult, so I'm not forcing you into anything. But I heard about this place in St. George. It's called The Bridge. And my first thought was, heck no, because I saw that impatient part and I was like, nope, not happening. And then it was crazy how this worked out. But my brother-in-law, his mom actually came to The Bridge like 2 years prior to me going. And so I just said, I'll give her a call, see what it's all about. Gave her this call, and she answered a bunch of questions I had. And my biggest thing with the whole inpatient, because I just was thinking back to the hospital inpatient,
Right.
and she goes, no, she was saying how she went every day down to the gas station to get an energy drink in the morning. And so I was like, okay, and she was telling me about how beautiful her experience was and sent me all these photos. And So I was like, all right, this is what I have to do. Was very prayerful about the fact, and just, asking a lot of people in my family, what do you think? And they're all
Right.
like, do it, do it. And um, so I set a date for April 1st, I believe it was. Yeah, April 1st. And um, went there on April 1st. On my way there, my sister's car got a flat tire right down the road from it. So I had to walk to the bridge from my sister's car. And, I was already thinking, holy crap, maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't be going here.
Right.
Um, but I walked in that door and met the providers and and it was a crazy experience. I was like, okay, I have to do this. And that first day was pretty rough. That night as well, my family left. I was thinking, what's this going to be like? And so I had a lot of doubts. And that next day that I was there, one of my very first appointments was with Cami and Shelby, and they are wonderful people.
Yeah, they are.
Um, they were amazing. I loved just the progress there, being able to talk to them after every day, just telling them, where I'm at, how I'm feeling. And I walked in there, and they, just started talking to me, and they basically didn't say a word. I just sat there and told them my story. And then they started to almost kind of reword my story with a different perspective.
Mm.
And that just kind of flipped this switch in my head. I was like, holy crap, and that was just a beautiful experience. I broke down crying that appointment with them. I got so emotional, and every single day after that at the bridge, every appointment I went to, it just continued to compound. It's almost like when I met with Cami and Shelby, they completely broke down that foundation that I had thought I built, just tore it away. And then they set a little slab. And then every day after that, it just continued to compound and compound. And the bridge was the most healing experience I've ever had in life. It was just beautiful every day, every lecture, every appointment. The group of guys I was with,
Yeah.
In that house together, they were who I needed at that point in time. Because they just, we were always had each other's backs. We were always there for one another. And we still Zoom call at least once a month. And this next weekend, I'll be going to one of their weddings, which is going to be a beautiful experience.
Fun.
Get to see a bunch of the boys out there. And
You guys had an amazing house. I mean,
mhm.
that group of men that just happened to end up together, and the pact that you guys made to make sure everybody stayed protected and everybody's minds and hearts and journeys were honored. And I mean, it was you don't see men very often. They should a lot more often, but you don't see men very often really get together and say, look, we don't care about any of these old stigmas. Like, we're going to watch out for each other's like hearts and souls and minds. Like, let's make sure that we all know we're here for each other. And
Yeah.
we watched that with you guys. I mean, yeah, the curriculum's great, but that camaraderie with those men was just awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing that, we were all there together at that same point in time. Because I mean, I would have never thought, just from how I grew up, that a man could cry and, open up and be vulnerable around a bunch of random dudes he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And but we were also vulnerable with each other. We let everything out if we really needed to talk.
Yeah.
Checking up on each other just about every time we'd see each other throughout the day. It was awesome. Even just sitting down and eating dinner together was an amazing experience. And even all the women that were there as well. They're just beautiful souls. I keep in touch with them as well because they did a lot for me. It was just an amazing group that we had. There's definitely a reason that we were all there
Yeah.
together at the same point in time.
Yeah, agreed. And now, I mean, you bounced out of there, you kind of made that big switch, and you're working full time doing something that I think it's kind of in your blood, but a little bit of a twist.
Hmm.
Productive, happy, healthy, like going 100 miles an hour. It's just, I hear these rumblings about Charlie out in the village, just like killing it, so that's why I think, man, I remember how dark that story was. I'd love to get him on here and just let him talk. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to say particulars if you don't want to, but yeah, what are you doing now? Like, how did you translate that recovery into like a life? Because you can't just recover and hang out and just feel better. You've got to be productive. Like you've got to get back,
Yeah.
into the world and move and work and develop. Like you have to keep that going. So how did you make that switch from, oh my gosh, I think I'm rescued, but now that second step into reality and work, like that's not easy for everybody. How did you do that? Like how did you make that shift out into getting to work and being productive?
Yeah, so that last day at the bridge, I started getting anxious. I was like, holy crap, because I'm about to go from this amazing experience back into everyday life, trying to juggle a job and family and friends and all of that. And so I was very worried. That day I got out, I called my uncle back on the ranch and I said, hey, could I come out and help brand? So I drove 16 hours out there, South Dakota, and I spent 2 weeks there just working, continuing to try to, keep that going as far as my mental health and that healing. And then came back to Utah. And as soon as I got back, this job, working down here for a rodeo company just kind of fell into my lap. And that's been an amazing experience. It's a good workplace. Coworkers are great people. The biggest thing for me though, continuing that healing and buckling down on my mental health, making sure I don't go back into that dark place. It's just kind of been the small things. A lot of time spent with family. A lot of looking back on my bridge notebook, rereading lectures, listening to them, just really focusing on that, taking notes on things that I missed while at the bridge. So I have a notebook that I have aside from my bridge notes, that I'll rewrite things, that I'm like, oh, I missed this in this lecture, so I'll rewrite that.
Yeah.
And I do, what's it called? Just in my journal, I'll just write down good things. Gratitude. That's the word.
There
I'll
you
just
go.
write gratitudes, twice a day, every morning, every night. Something I'm thankful for. And I really focus on, not talking bad about myself, even in a joking manner. Just really focusing on continuing to love myself and to love life for how it is, because life is truly beautiful. You flip on the news and it's just what the crap.
Yeah.
But you turn off the TV and you step outside and you sit on the back deck with your family and your dogs and just soak in the sun or whatever. Just that it really helps. But yeah, it's there's still days, where I'll slip a bit, or I'll have this dark thought or feel like I'm starting to get depressed again. And instead of, well, oh crap, back to drinking, back to marijuana, I go, all right, I'll take a step back, think, why am I feeling this way? Because it's natural to feel this.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling this way? But that biggest thing was just everybody's going to feel depression, anxiety, natural emotions.
Yeah.
It's just not holding on to them. It's
Right.
realizing why you're feeling them, and then finding a way to be able to let it go, feel it for how long your body needs to, but to not hold on to that and really focus on it. So I've just been able to find little ways like nature and gratitudes, and looking back at my bridge notebook, just things that, just really help to not hold on to those emotions. So
Yeah.
it's been amazing.
Well, I mean, your story is amazing, and you did it, right? There's some cheerleaders around you, but I can't stress enough that those successes, they're yours. They're yours for the rest of your life, and you're going to have a lot more. You're going to get your nose bloodied too. That's just the way life's like mine. That's just the way it is. But for you to develop that perspective on and that ethic really of hard work, and rather than become the depression again or become the anxiety, you feel it, but you're Charlie feeling that. It's not I am this. No, I'm different than that. Like this is my identity is me. This is me. And I can feel whatever I want. I can be really angry. I can be happy. I can be super, super ticked. I can not sleep great one night. I can be really depressed or anxious, but that's not me. I'm someone different. I'm observing that and I can manage that. So yeah, I don't know. I loved your story and I love listening to your perspective. I mean, some of those details I had no idea. So that's been super enlightening for me too. I'm so appreciative. Anything you want to say before we sign off to anybody out there struggling or battling with the dark? What would you tell them if you could find them right now, curled up, just in trouble, like just a couple of words, what would you say?
First, I'd give them a hug, and I'd just tell them that, there is healing in life. It's not bleak. It's not, like you said, you aren't the depression, you aren't the anxiety, you're feeling that. And that's okay to feel it, but just know that there's no definite answer. There's healing. There's not always going to be darkness. Just don't give up. There's so much life that you have to live, and there is healing in it. So
I love it. I love it. Charlie, thank you so much. I'm so appreciative. I could talk to you all day, but I know you actually have a life and things to do, so I'll leave you alone. But thanks so much for being on, and we'll have you on, I'm sure, again. And thanks for all the great work and being a light. And you've gone from a patient to a provider. I mean, you're killing it. And yeah, blessings to you and your family. And we're so proud of you. I love you, man.
yeah, thank you. I love you too. Thank you so much for the bridge experience and all you guys have done for me.
Hey, thanks for the great work. We'll talk to you really soon.
All righty. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.